Hello there guys, this is Solid Shepard bringing you another video. And today we're just going to talk about what exactly is going on with The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2. And really Legend of Zelda as a whole. But I mean, this really all comes back to Breath of the Wild 2. So it has been delayed to 2023. Now they are saying early 2023. But I'm going to tell you why this. So the original Breath of the Wild, when they had to create the engine, create the world from scratch, there were stories coming out how they would talk, because it was the first time they really did like a true open world Zelda that was like the world was seamless. They were talking about how like they'd fix like a bug or something going on in this part of the world and somehow it impacts this other part of the world, so they'd have to go and fix that. Like there was all this stuff going on that they had to do that they don't have to do for Breath of the Wild 2, because they're using the same exact Hyrule, the same engine, the same assets. They just might be adding a thing here and there. Maybe adding, updating buildings to look like construction's been underway to show the healing process of Hyrule, civilization returning. And of course, they need to add the sky areas, and then also any kind of dungeons or underground areas they're going to use. And then outside of that, it's just a matter of creating and inserting the quests and cutscenes. So yes, I mean, all that does take it, I mean, it's not like you can just do that overnight. But I do want to remind you that Majora's Mask, they've done this before with Zelda, with Ocarina of Time to Majora's Mask, and they did it in 1 year. Now, I do understand that Majora's Mask and Ocarina of Time are much smaller games than Breath of the Wild 2 and Breath of the Wild. I'm not saying it's a one-to-one comparison. But something that you do need to understand is in Majora's Mask, Eiji Aonuma, it was his first game he ever directed, okay? Because Ocarina of Time was still done by Miyamoto. So it was his first game. It was his first time ever doing it. He was talking about how he'd have nightmares in his sleep and stuff and all that regarding the game. That's where that Deku cutscene came from, when Link was turned into the Deku scrub at the beginning. And, I mean, they created an entirely, yes, they used the same assets, the same engine, but they created an entirely new world. And there were actually, obviously some assets they did create from scratch, like the moon and Majora's Mask and the bosses and stuff like that. So, yes, I'm not saying it should only take 1 year to do Breath of the Wild 2. What I am saying is the original Breath of the Wild entered development in 2013. And came out in 2017. That is, depending on like the actual months from that release and start, that's a 4 to 5 year window of development for the original, everything from scratch. So Breath of the Wild 2, using all the same assets, they're probably just going to add on to it, create a few new things and add to it, make it a different experience. Right now we're looking at a 5 to 6 year window with this delay, because development started in 2017. When they finished the original Breath of the Wild, we know that they started development almost right away. So if it doesn't come out early 2017, comes more mid to late, you're looking at a 6 year window. But at the current, you're still looking at over 5 years. So the soonest we're getting it now, it's still longer development time than the original.
Just real quick before we go further, on this channel we cover gaming news, gaming theories, and gaming discussion. If that sounds like the kind of content you're interested in, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Back to the video.
Now, you could make the argument, oh, it's COVID. It's because of COVID. It's because of the pandemic. And look, I understand that would cause an issue, okay? But the original game was like a 4 to 5 year window. So you're probably looking at, it probably should have taken about 3 years to make this game. Like max. 2 to 3 years. 2 years if they, if they were able to do it quick. 3 years if they took their time. Now, if COVID, okay, I'll give you another half a year to a year. So that's 4 years. But we're looking at a 5 to 6 year window. So clearly something's going on. And some people have made the argument, well, maybe they're waiting because obviously the OLED shows that Nintendo was working on basically like a Switch Pro type of deal. But then because of the pandemic and the chip shortages that you have seen with the NVIDIA graphics cards and the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X, Maybe since they'd already put in the work to getting like the new chassis, like the setup for the system and the new screens and all that, they're like, well, we need to release this because we spent money on it. So that's why we got the OLED, but it still shows they do want to create a Nintendo Switch Pro, basically, like a version of it once they're able to. So maybe they're waiting for the chip shortages to not be as bad, which is coming up here soon. And so maybe they're expecting to release a new Nintendo Switch version that's more powerful in 2023. And of course, just like the original Nintendo Switch, they want Breath of the Wild 2 to be a system seller, just like Breath of the Wild was for the original Switch. Perhaps that is their plan, which is fair enough. But now we can talk about something I've talked about on this channel before, which is the Zelda anniversary that came and went, or lack thereof. They did absolutely nothing for it. They gave us Skyward Sword, which is not very much arguably, but pretty much a consensus is the least favorite mainline Legend of Zelda game. And then they gave us this little Game & Watch thing that obviously Nintendo, anytime they release a product like that, they always have to underproduce because they want to manufacture scarcity to drive up prices and such. So, you know, at this point, it's pretty much impossible to get it unless you want to, you know, spend way more than it's worth. And that's what they gave us. That's what we got. Meanwhile, right before that, they gave Mario the greatest anniversary of all time in video gaming. Like, it kind of sucks to be a Zelda fan right now. So, fair enough, if you want Zelda to be a system seller, even though you've been doing that franchise dirty, Nintendo. Not as dirty as others like F-Zero and until recently Metroid. And even with Metroid, where's Metroid Prime 4, Nintendo? But anyways, that's neither here nor there. That's not what this video is about. If Nintendo wants to give us Breath of the Wild 2 with the new system they're probably planning on releasing, new upgraded system, that's fair enough, Nintendo. Then give us something in the meantime. Do you know how many people would love to have Ocarina of Time HD and Majora's Mask HD? You could release those. You could give that to us so we could have those games on the Switch. And I understand you can play the original N64 version, but you got to pay an arm and a leg for that bonus Nintendo online package, which most people aren't really willing to do that. And plus, you want HD visuals. Like, literally, you could take the N64 version that is playable on the Switch through the online. You could like the control scheme, the way it works, you could take that, and then you could just take, like, the code, the graphics, and all of that from the freaking DS, the 3DS versions of those games, and then voila, there you go, Nintendo. It's a remake. You give us Majora's Mask and Ocarina of Time remake on the Nintendo Switch. It's easy as that. And we already have HD versions existing of Twilight Princess and Wind Waker that you could literally just port to the Switch. So you could give us one of those 4 games, you could give us 2 of those 4 games, or you could give us all 4. Or, you know, you can package them together too, make them package deals, 2 different ones. You have the N64 HD collection and then or remake collection, and then you have the GameCube collection. Preferably, if they had to pick one, I'd choose the GameCube collection, like release Wind Waker and Twilight Princess, port them over, since you do have the online service, so technically you would have all 3D Zeldas on one console. All 3D Zeldas would be on the Switch in some way. If you give us an HD ports of the Wii U HDs of Twilight Princess and Wind Waker, and then with the internet service, you can play Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. And then obviously they've already done the Skyward Sword. And then obviously Breath of the Wild is on the Switch. And then Breath of the Wild to be coming soon. So the Switch would literally have every single 3D Zelda. And since the retro versions are also already on there, you'll have access on a Nintendo Switch every single Legend of Zelda game. Except for maybe, I don't think Game Boy Advance and stuff has come over yet. I'm not really worried about Game Boy, original Game Boy, because I believe the only one on there was Link's Awakening, which we already have the Link's Awakening remake on the Switch. So you would literally have everything except for, like, Minish Cap. and Four Swords, which you could literally set a later date. Oh, and a Link Between Worlds. I almost forgot about that one as well. But yeah, those are the only games that we wouldn't have. We'd literally have every other major Zelda game on the Switch. How awesome would that be as Zelda fans, huh? We'd love that, right? That'd be awesome. But Nintendo's not doing it. They're just keep on delaying Breath of the Wild 2, which is very mysterious. We don't understand why it's taking this long. Even with COVID, it shouldn't be taking anywhere near this long. The game should be out by now. And then on top of that, which is fine. Look, Nintendo, if some stuff happened, if stuff went wrong, or you decide you need to go a different direction, or you just want to add more stuff to make the game as great as possible, that's fine, but try to communicate with us, because we've literally had, like 2 or 3 updates in total since the game has been announced, and that's it. That's all the communication we got, and then we were told basically the anniversary's not happening. It's not a good look. And then you're not giving us anything to tide us over. I don't know. It's just really weird. It's a whole weird situation. But just let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Your opinions on Breath of the Wild 2, about how it's not released yet in its development cycle, even though it technically was mostly completed. Like, the base of it was already completed before they even started production. Or about the fact that we still haven't gotten ports of Twilight Princess or Wind Waker HD, and I don't know, then they're not giving us any HD Majora's Mask or Ocarina of Time. Let me know your thoughts on all that. As always, this has been Solid Shepard. Until next time, I should go.